must say that Neil knew what he was doing when he put me last for a couple reasons. I think both Bob and Jim teed this up very nicely, but also outdoor recreation is a lot of times looked at the fluff. It's the fun stuff. I equate it to when I sneak the spinach into my kids' smoothies. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today is how can we use outdoor recreation and conservation, parks and trails as a tool to push forward all the things that we've been talking to you about today. Just a little bit about the Great Outdoors Foundation if you're not familiar with us. We're a small nonprofit here in the region, and our goal is really to align visions and push forward projects that really help us have a high impact on a regional basis. We provide the aligning, the collaboration, and also, and most importantly, the funding. And a lot about what I'm talking about today will revolve around that. So we recently just finished the fundraising for the Juster Park Nature Center. It was a $10.3 million project. And upon finishing that, we were called upon to act as the fiscal agent for the Greater Des Moines Water Trails. I don't know if you've heard about it. Let's see if I can get it to go. But this is a project that is looking at mitigating the dams in 3 places in downtown Des Moines, among other projects. I wanted to explore it because I felt that one of the things that we're missing within our community is a way to connect to our water, to really use it, to love it, and to understand the economic dollars that can flow from it. So I took a little trip to Columbus, Georgia and Boise, Idaho to look at their projects and what it's done for their communities. By the way, this is a project that was done by RDG. That's the Women of Achievement Bridge. This is really showing you what it could look like in downtown Des Moines. It's a pretty neat project, so good job RDG. And we love using this because it really paints the picture and the vision of what could happen. But when I was on that trip, they were taking me from site to site to show the economic development of what their water trail did. And in between that, we had chances while we were walked to talk about what was going on in their community. And it was a little side story that sold me that this had to be our vision here in central Iowa. What happened when they removed and mitigated the dam and put in their white water course? Immediately, they saw a notable explosion in their dragonfly population. So much so that the community really identified and claimed the dragonfly as their unofficial mascot. They changed their name of their trail system from, I think it was the Southwest Georgia Trail System, very inventive, to the Dragonfly Trail. And they even had a local brewery that had a Dragonfly IPA. They had shirts that said, "Surf the Dragonfly, Bike the Dragonfly." They owned this. This was part of who they were. Now, most of you in this room are nodding because we all know that the dragonfly is an indicator species, and as water quality increases, so does our dragonfly population. That was it for me. It was aligning the vision that the developers had for economic development, what the businesses had for recruitment and tourism, along with what all of us have for increasing water quality and providing outdoor recreation and a way to engage with the water. That's what sold me on that we had to do this in central Iowa. So today what I want to talk to you is really about the vision of using the Greater Des Moines Water Trails as a case study for how parks and trails can provide a tool to advance water quality. And again, Bob and Jim have set this up nicely, as Molly had too. So I'm going to walk you quickly through this very comprehensive plan to get to the real meat. And so if you have any questions afterwards, please know that this is like a 10-second overview. When you look at the downtown projects, you see there's 3 dams that we're mitigating. There's the Center Street Dam that's over the Women of Achievement Bridge next to Wells Fargo Arena. At the confluence of the river, where you see Principal Park, or how most of us really know it as Mullets, you have the Scott Avenue Dam. And then we're moving the Fleur Street Dam more from inside Waterworks Park to along where the new development of Gray Station and the bridge connecting from Gray Station to Grace Lake. That is the 3rd project. We see the Center Street Dam as a high energy adventure. If you look on, I usually have a pointer for this. If you look on your left, you see the skate park, the bobber park. The skate park is actually going to break ground this fall. And on the other side, you see the botanical center, the botanical garden, fish passage. And what we've done is take that Center Street Dam that we call the drowning machine, that we've had 19 deaths, and we really break it up into a series of 4 whitewater drops. It provides a consistent and steady flow of water that is really not seen anywhere else. When Columbus, Georgia came to visit us here just last week, they could not believe the potential that we have here. It's an international potential because of the consistency. In Georgia, they're seeing people come from all over, not the country, but all over the world to participate in that. They see with the venue that we have downtown really elevating and blowing them out of the water. When you look at what we're terming the nature connection is the Scott Avenue Dam. Our friends at the DNR told us that this is the most popular fishing spot in all of Iowa. And through our outreach, we really saw that. Our user groups really wanted us to preserve and maintain this as a fishing use. So what we did here was really remove obstacles and provide fish habitat all the way through. You can still float through, you can still use this as an exit point to redo the loop for Center Street, or you can drop in and continue down an urban into a nature environment on a float trip. And then lastly, what we're terming the Learn and Play on Fleur Avenue. This is a spot where people are already going to learn how to interact with the water at Gray's Lake. They're learning how to paddleboard and do other things. We're going to continue this by allowing a much easier way to start to learn how to surf or learn to kayak in the water. And additionally, there is a rather large fish passage area that not only provides fishing, provides fish passage, but it also provides a very easy way for people to interact in a safe manner with the water. But that's not all. Besides the 3 dams, we have an additional 83 projects, over 140 miles. It's hard to see from here, but chances are if you live in central Iowa, you can find one of those dots and you do not live very far from this. This is a very broad-reaching initiative. I like to equate it that if 30 years ago when we were starting the paved trails, what if we do a holistic plan within central Iowa at one fell swoop? It may have taken 10 years to achieve that vision, but think about the efficiencies that would have been gained, the money that would have been saved if we had done that at the beginning. Now with 83 other sites, I'm not going to be able to show you all of them, but I'll give you an overview of 3. This is in Johnston, Beaver Creek. This is at Merle Hay and 8035. You may remember that there was an abandoned motel that was providing some criminal activity that has since been leveled, and this project will be there. Johnston is breaking ground on their projects this next year. They're so excited. They see this as key for revitalizing some of their areas. Prospect Park in Des Moines. This is one that is really being led by the neighbors. They really want additional space to be able to interact with the water, and this provides additional access in an area that we may have limited access. And then one of our favorites, the crown jewel, if you know about it, Chautauqua Bottoms. This is really just elevating the experience that is already there. This provides platform primitive camping that can be paddled in and paddled out. That's the only way you can reach it. For those of us that have spent time there, this is one of our favorite places. This just takes the experience and the immersion to another level. Jay Byers, CEO, sums up the Greater Des Moines Partnership, sums this up. The business community and the leadership within the area really sees this as the greatest transformational quality of life project of our generation in central Iowa. This coming from the business community. So let's talk about cost. With the Learn and Play, we're looking at $28 million. Nature Connection, 22, and then the Adventure Park for 57 million. When you add in the regional projects, that's an additional 11 million. I will save you and do the math for you right now. That's a $117 million project. Now, if you would have told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that we would have been approached by the downtown business community about moving this project forward, I would have told you you were nuts. This is another reason why I'm incredibly excited about the potential of this project. It is being led by businesses, it's being embraced by the jurisdictions, and it's been supported by our citizens. In fact, we're currently testing in a fundraising feasibility study the ability to raise $33.5 million. We're in the fundraising feasibility study, and we've already received $1 million donation. We haven't even made our asks. So what is the willingness of this to support this? Well, if you look at 2016, in Des Moines alone, we successfully completed the fundraising for the Jester Park Nature Center, as well as the Des Moines Waterworks Park. That was over $20 million of fundraising in 1 year for outdoor recreation on separate projects. So why are businesses leading this? Well, I think we see the obvious, the conventional wisdom, the putting heads in beds, having increased spending. Right now alone, without this, we see $8.7 billion in annual consumer spending from outdoor recreation in Iowa. And when you look at the tax incentive, the tax spending, and that revenue to cities and states, we see conventionally why businesses are behind it. But there's another supporting mechanism there from the businesses. Everyone's talking about how great it is that Iowa has a 2.5% unemployment rate. If Iowa has a 2.5 unemployment rate, that means Des Moines is really probably around 1.5 to 2%. It is impossible to conduct and expand business in that type of market for our employers. Our downtown businesses know that to compete, we need to attract more workers and we need to keep the workers that we have here. And they see this as a crucial way to do this. All of a sudden, the narrative changes from water quality, access, accessibility, building corridors, to downtown businesses saying, if you want to keep us here, if you want to keep the economic viability that Des Moines has experienced, this is something that you need to do. The reason why they're saying this is because as much as we enjoy this unemployment rate, the national average isn't much more than that. Millennials specifically, and all workers, have the ability to identify where they want to live based on the amenities that they have, move there, and then find a job. We're no longer just competing regionally with Chicago, Omaha, Kansas City, and Minneapolis, but we're competing with Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Portland, Oregon. We don't have mountains, we don't have beaches, but we do have miles and miles of water trails. Activating these from the business perspective is a key component of keeping Des Moines viable and competitive. So why are the, thank you. I get really excited about this. So why are the jurisdictions supporting this? When you look at Des Moines alone, they just recently conducted a housing survey, and they found that they are at 68% of property values of where they should be. When you think about the impact to Des Moines' bottom line, that's incredibly significant. We're in the process of not only conducting an economic impact study for this project specifically, but also the impact on property values. The Headwaters Economy Review in 2016 showed that similar projects can increase property values from 6 to 20%. When you translate that to the city of Des Moines, that's real money. But it's also the alleviation or the potential alleviation of future costs if done and planned right. Can we use these projects, not just now, but in the future for stormwater management? Can we clean the water before it gets to waterworks? These are questions that we're really looking at. How do we do that? But the planning has to be done at the beginning. The funding stream has to be secured. And then you have the citizens supporting it. And quite frankly, it's because we want to stay here, we want our children to stay here, and we want clean water. We see this as all crucial elements to make this happen. So from the Great Outdoors perspective, for us to be involved, there was a couple non-negotiables. One, this had to be a long-term sustainable plan. that didn't fall victim to whatever the political flavor at the time was. It had to be able to stand on its own independently, no matter who was in the office, no matter who controlled the House. It also must address water quality and soil health. It must increase access to healthy spaces and outdoor recreation for all populations. And it had to raise the boat of all, either through regionalism or through creating a mechanism that would help everyone. We are operating from a space of scarcity. No wonder our budgets have been starved, both with the DNR, with everyone in this room. We all know what has happened to outdoor recreation spending and conservation spending over the last 10 years. And I'm here to say that if we do this right, we shouldn't have to settle for less than 1% of any budget, but we have to make that part of the plan from the very beginning. So when people ask, what are the challenges? There's many. I'm sure a lot of you have questions, but I'm going to address two. And the two main ones that come up are water quality, and then where are we going to get the money? I've had conversations with lots of you in the room. I think most recently Bill Stowe and I had a conversation of, is this a chicken or an egg? Do you clean the water first and then do the water trails? Or do you do the water trails first, knowing that it could move the political needle? I think there's two things that we need to understand. One, the short-term impacts of implementing this project. Every single project in here has incremental water quality changes. I told you what happened with the dragonflies in Columbus. I'm not promising. I'm not saying that that's going to happen with the projects here in Des Moines. I'm saying that we're going to have small incremental changes that collectively could produce some sort of impact, but it's certainly not going to solve our water quality issues, and I'm not going to pretend that it's going to. We have other water quality issues. We did put in the budget from the very beginning in the capital campaign money to hire a full-time water quality engineer. What does that do? One, we have to figure out how to measure moving water and understand what that means and communicate it to the public in a way that they understand for health and safety reasons. Two, we need to know what can we do within this project and potentially outside of this project to help increase water quality. What are some of the things that we can implement on a piece-by-piece basis to help collectively move that needle? But more importantly, we need to have education. What do high nitrates mean? What else is in the water, and what does that mean? Is there a difference between canoeing in nitrates and jumping in and drinking nitrates? There's all these things that we have to be able to answer, to be radically transparent about, and to communicate to the public, because that's the only way we're going to build trust and make change. But long term, I really feel that the only way that we are going to move the needle anymore is if we create these connections to our water. Right now, we are completely disconnected, and getting down to any of our rivers or even creeks is increasingly difficult. And once you get there, even if you get on, we've seen with the Motorboat Association, a lot of times there's no way to get out, and the Motorboat Association has been going and rescuing people. People want to interact with our water. We're not giving them the opportunity to do that. But by making that connection of use, of love, and then attaching the dollars to this, I feel that we can start moving the needle. We may have disagreements in here, but I'm tired of trying it the same way every time, and we're ready to move in a different direction. The other way that we can change the narrative is through funding, and I think this is the most crucial way. None of this is radical, none of this is new. A lot of you have used this in a lot of different ways. I think what's different right now is aligning these visions and making it a non-negotiable in getting this project done. And we have donors that want to lead this forward to provide real money for this project, but this is a crucial part of the equation, and they're conditioning their money on it. When you look at the fundraising, the part of the pie that's pulled out, that's what our donors are used to paying for. That's everything on the land, parking lots, zip lines, concessionaires, etc. Everything within the water or in the other two pieces of the pie. And that's what we see as line items in budgets. They may be reduced, they may be zeroed out, or they may be going to another place, but they're there. Those are dam mitigations, flood resiliency, fish passage. Once November happens, we will be able to identify what our strategy is. And then once we have those private dollars, that $33.5 million, we need to leverage that to put pressure on our representatives to finally pass I will. We've all been working on this for so long, but it changes when the donors that are giving to this project are also the donors that are giving to the elected officials, and they come to those elected officials and say, I need I will passed with the formula intact, and this is not an environmental issue, this is not an urban divide. This is because you will not enjoy the employment of my organization without it. This is for us to remain competitive on a regional and national scale for our economy. The other things we're doing is creating additional revenue streams. Within the capital campaign, we developed a $5 million revolving fund. This will help move forward regional projects, but once those regional projects are built out, we see this as starting to do some of the things that Jim and Bob outlined with being able to identify the lands that are producing the highest amount of runoff, chemicals, siltation, etc., and being able to be ready to put those into restoration, whether it's conservation easement, additional parks, etc. This is a long-term way to protect that investment of $117 million. So there's other applications. When we talk, if we can figure out this formula, we could also apply it to things like stormwater management outside of traditional areas for suburban and future suburban park planning. The city of Clive has put a tremendous amount of resources within their city limits to slow the stormwater to prevent flooding, and it was able to be measured within the tenths of the inch and the minutes. To have a real impact on slowing flooding and stormwater, we need to invest outside of those jurisdictions and understand that the western suburbs are developing at a rate of 400 acres per year. We need to plan ahead of that development. And if we ever had a self-governing regional water utility, like the one that's being discussed within all of our partners, they could put some sort of fee or surcharge where that money would go directly to some sort of nonprofit that would be able to then obtain highly polluted lands and to start to clean the water before it gets to the plant. So with that, this is how you can help. If you believe in this project, you can share your support of it on all levels, because this is going to be one of those unique projects where we not only need federal and state, but we need the mayors, the city councilmen, the water boards, and your county supervisors. You can support I will, and most importantly, the maintaining the formula. And then I think what's most important to keep us from coming back to this place where we are stuck subsisting in a scarcity mentality, that every future project that we do, every new park, every new trail, must have a plan of securing long-term dependable funding. That can be incorporating endowment funding, that can be incorporating long-term maintenance funding, that could be attaching a revenue stream, such as raising the ceiling on the hotel motel tax, and then that portion coming into water trails. Any project that you're a part of, help us fast forward the progress that we can make by insisting that this becomes a business plan so that we are no longer subject to whatever the political winds of the time are. With that, if I have any time, I'll open it up.